Hey everyone, I have a story that I want to share with you today. And it all started because I found one last jar of pears to feed the little ones today. The story behind these pears are, when we first moved into the neighborhood, a neighbor said, "Can you prune my tree? You seem like you like to garden." And I said, "I've never done a pear tree, but I'll learn." And I did, and I pruned her tree, and it's just kind of continued. And every year they've slowly just given us more and more of the pears in the fall until basically it's like my tree on someone else's property. I prune it in the spring and I go back in the fall and I harvest, and they are delicious. They start out, they're yellow with some red blush, and I've never figured out what variety they are. You can pick them straight off the tree and eat them like a crunchy apple, and they're so good. They will drop on the ground and half of it will be bruised and the other half will be still crunchy for like 2 more weeks if it doesn't mold. But they take like a good month to ripen, which is plenty of time to eat nice crunchy fruit. It's a good giving tree. It gives us lots of big pears. And the thing I like the most about it is it's very resistant to pests. There are never any worms in it and we don't spray it. Wonderful. So I'm trying to take some clippings and get them to root. I'm not good at that yet. I haven't learned how to make new trees yet. Hopefully someday we can have lots of that variety going around that you don't have to spray, that gives you lots of yummy, good fruit. Hey, but the story of this year's harvest was I was kind of overwhelmed. I had a baby and all this produce around the house, and I took more on than I needed to. So I sent out a plea saying, "Please help me. These are the things I needed." And people were like, "I'll do your sewing. I'll watch your kids." And Natalie said, "I will come help you with your pears." So she came, she brought a little bit of hers and we combined them and did them in honey water. And it was just so, canning with friends is the best. You gotta can with friends because you sit around and chat while you're peeling them. You combine resources. The little kids play. You should always can with friends. But what really struck me the most about Natalie and these pears, and I think of her every time we eat these pears, is in my message I said, "I really don't want to bother anyone. Please don't let me bother you. That would make me feel horrible." And she responded back saying, "Kathleen, I love you. You are my friend. You will never be a bother to me. And you're needing help. You should never fear to ask for help." I remember those days of crying in the closet because I was so overwhelmed. And isn't that true? We mothers, we get so overwhelmed and we never want to bother anyone else. This is our load. We asked for all these kids, these blessing kids, but it can get very overwhelming. And especially if you want to kind of do it a certain way, a certain lifestyle where you grow your own, it can get overwhelming. And especially with a difficult baby, children with special needs, they all need attention and love. It can get overwhelming, but Natalie came and she shared just a small little bit of what was going on in her life, which could easily overwhelmed her, but I was strengthened by her strength, and her love has touched me. That's the story of those pears. Isn't it? It's so wonderful when we do things on our own, when we grow our own. There's always a story behind it. And there's people that we associate them with. I call these the Blanchard pears because they come from the Blanchards. But if you can grow something of your own, if you can harvest it, there's actual love in this food, in this jar. This jar was given to me from Kristen, who was cleaning out her grandmother-in-law's cellar, and she gave me a bunch of jars, and some of them are cool. They look like barrels, and some of them are like old mayonnaise jars that they used to make so that they would fit canning rings, you know. They don't do that anymore. You gotta buy the specific brand. But there's story behind it, and it's so rich and flavorful to have a life full of stories. It's so much more rewarding than going to a big box store and buying peaches that have no name, no country of origin, no name of who grew it, the farmer. You don't know the farmer, the grower. You don't know who packed it. So that's one of the, I don't know, how do you divide up in your big pie circle how much percentage of it is why you love growing some stuff? Well, this morning, 90% of why I love growing stuff is the story behind it and the memories you'll have from creating and growing your own. So, do you have a story that goes along with your food?